With everything going on, economic shifts, layoffs, and the growing push for freedom, there's never been a smarter time to start your own side hustle. I recently covered the why and how in episode number 144. But the hardest part? Getting started and staying consistent. That's exactly what this rebroadcast tackles. It's short, it's powerful, and shares a hack that I've used over and over to hit the big goals, even when motivation fades. So if you've been procrastinating or just feeling stuck on the sidelines, this could be exactly the push that you need right now. Behind every major success I've achieved, there's been a trusted accountability partner behind the scenes to keep me on track. Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that is laser focused to inspire you to take action to start or to scale your side hustle income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy, author of The Way Success Works. If you want to hit some new milestones this year or achieve some big, bold, beautiful goals, you're going to have to do some things differently than you've done in the past and push yourself to do things you've never done before. But here's the problem. Every one of us, without exception, is a creature of habit. We have a habitual way of thinking and then feeling, which drives our behavior day in and day out. Those behaviors or actions give us our results in life. And if we keep doing those same behaviors, we can expect to keep getting the same old results. So we need to start doing some things differently, but how? You know how difficult it can be to stick with a new action or new routine long enough until it becomes the new habit. Just look at the number of people who drop off their New Year's resolutions by the first week of January. Or if they're really pushing themselves, maybe they make it to week 2. In this short, sweet, yet powerful episode, I share my secret, not so secret weapon that I use to get the hard stuff done. Those actions and tasks that I know I need to accomplish to move the needle forward, and to stick with it until the new desired result is achieved. And isn't it interesting how so often those actions are going to be the most rewarding, that lead to the biggest payback for us, are the hard ones that we've been procrastinating about? Our intentions are good, and we can come up with some pretty great sounding excuses for not acting. But if you're at the point where you honestly want to jump forward, get the hard stuff done, and achieve something great, and bask in the accomplishment of it, here's what you want to do. What do you do to push yourself to follow through? Recruit an accountability partner. They'll help you keep your word. And since you'll be reporting into this person, it'll force you to do the necessary planning and prioritizing. Now, here are some specific guidelines that'll best ensure your success. Number 1. You'll seek out an accountability partner once you've made the decision to move forward on your goal. So this is after you've been thinking about it, talking about it, dreaming about it. It's at the point where you say, I'm going for it. My mind's made up. That's when you seek out the accountability partner. Number 2, the person you choose will be someone who has these 3 attributes. A, they're someone you respect and admire. B, is someone who you will not want to disappoint, so you want to keep your word to them. And C, they won't put up with your BS excuses for not doing what you say you're going to do. More on that in just a minute. When I made the decision to write a book that became the bestseller, The Way Success Works, How to Decide, Believe, and Begin to Live Your Best Life, I started to think about who would be best suited as my accountability partner for that venture. Immediately, the name Dave Douglas popped into mind. I have a huge respect for Dave, and he's one of those people who is highly productive, very busy guy, and is someone who does not waste his time or other people's. Perfect. Now, Dave, being a busy guy, I wanted to make it as easy as possible for him to say yes to my request. So I described to him what I was up to, my vision and the why behind the whole project. And I knew it was very much in alignment with his own mission and values. Which brings us to number 3. Number 3 is the ask. Be clear to them what they will be saying yes to. With Dave, I explained that I would be emailing him every other Monday. The subject line would be successes and commitments. That's what I recommend you do. The body of the email would list the successes I achieved in the previous 2 weeks. And of course, the commitments would be what I was committed to doing in the upcoming 2 week period. And it's those commitments that I would be reporting on 2 weeks later, the completion of them becoming my successes. It wasn't up to Dave to chase me down or follow up. It was up to me to get the completed email to him. He didn't need to respond, although he always did. My obligation to report to him every 2 weeks was a huge incentive for me to do the work that I committed to for that 2 week period. Another point about the ask is give them a completion date, or at least approximate, a time when this is going to end. For me, in most cases, it's when a major milestone has been achieved, and with that milestone being hit, there's enough forward momentum and people involved that there truly is no turning back. In the case of the way success works, it was when the detailed outline was complete and I had completed many of the interviews with young adults whose success stories I was going to include. At that point, I had way too much skin in the game and others involved. I wasn't going to let them down. In preparing for this episode, I went back and took a look at some of our exchanges from that time. I noticed that all those emails were contained in one email thread, which is another tip. It provides a nice archive for you to revel in later. It was super fun for me to read now because it brought back to me, quite frankly, all the work that was involved and, of course, some of the highlights, all the way up to the first printing and launch date. Because although Dave was no longer my accountability partner, that specific relationship had served its purpose. I periodically sent him updates as he enjoyed being part of the journey, and I really appreciated his ongoing encouragement. But something that I had completely forgotten about was that my first attempt was actually a false start. When I wrote my first follow-up report to Dave, I described how I had launched a new income stream for my self-storage facility that I had at the time, and really got sidetracked and explained the need for an extension. He was most gracious. He wrote, and I quote, "I understand how things can get in the way. Unfortunately, it's a fact of life. The key for me is not getting frustrated and knowing that I will be back on stride soon." I loved how he sprinkled teaching points and words of encouragement in his emails. I guess you could say in this instance, he let me off the hook, but 5 months later, I was indeed back on stride. Hopefully, you'll follow through on your commitments. But if something happens that you're thinking, seriously, I am not going to get this done, you'll know in your heart of hearts whether it's an excuse or whether it's a genuine need to postpone the task. Which brings me to number 4. Number 4, excuses. Do everything in your power to follow through on your commitment and keep your word. Not just to your accountability partner, but even more importantly, to yourself. So you stay in integrity. Your word means something. Make it mean something. Yeah, I know I just described to you how I fell off course in my initial email for the span of 5 months. But after that, I stuck to it. Because if you make an excuse once, it'll be that much easier to make an excuse the next time around, and the next time it just keeps getting easier to do. At times when I've been an accountability person for someone, one of my conditions of saying yes is 3 strikes and it's out. Meaning, if they tell me that they're going to do something and for whatever reason it doesn't get done and they put it off to the next report, so be it. The second time, okay, I can live with it. But if it happens a third time with that same task, it's off the table. I don't want to hear about it again because clearly it's not a huge priority for them. Call it tough love, but we don't want to waste each other's time. You can have excuses or you can have results, but not both. In scanning through that email thread of Dave and I from so many years ago, it was really fun to reread his words of support and encouragement. Now, just to be clear, my ask to Dave had nothing to do with mentorship or brainstorming. But when he replied to my reports, there was always a sentence or two of encouragement, which was always welcomed. I dropped that in there as a recommendation in the event that you're an accountability person for someone else. I mentioned at the beginning how if we want to achieve a different result than we're now getting, we're going to have to do things differently, and that involves forming new habits. But realize, in addition to you having to change your habit patterns, those around you need to change as well. Example, someone I interviewed recently, Stephen Short, told me about a friend of his who wanted to write rom-com books as a side hustle. So this aspiring writer decided that she was going to go to her room, close the door, and work a couple hours in the evening 2 or 3 times a week. But here's the thing. She and her husband worked and they had a young family. So the rest of the family was used to having mom around in the evenings. So inevitably, there would have been times where one of the kids would be running upstairs or needing mom. They were used to having her around. You can picture it, right? So with the help and support of her partner, she needed to be prepared to stick to her plan and not give in to the interruptions from family members until they saw by her behavior that she was serious, that they understood that that couple of hours, 2 or 3 times a week, was to be protected and respected. In a situation like that, having an accountability partner would be a tremendous help, particularly until she got into the groove of it, see her writing progressing, and as the momentum builds, it becomes easier then to guard that time and space. When I decided to create and launch this podcast, oh my God, there were so many unknowns, so many things I had to figure out. So once again, I reached out to an accountability partner. This time, my sister. I set up the same structure as I did with Dave, only in this instance, it made more sense that I checked in with her weekly instead of every 2 weeks. You decide what time frame is going to be the best for you. Just make sure that you're consistent. The end date when I started was a little bit more fluid. I kept it up until I knew that I had gained that momentum that I described earlier to the point of no return. One piece of that, and it's another tip I want to share, is that in my research and learning all I could about podcasts, I had discovered that most podcasts that are launched only last about 6 to 8 episodes. Isn't that amazing? There are a number of factors that play into that short span, but one of them is expectation. Often people think that the podcast will grow quicker than it does, and also they don't anticipate how much work is really involved. And I didn't want the Side Hustle Hero podcast to fall into that statistic. So before I even started, I made a commitment that I would do this for 1 year. Come hell or high water, I'd figure out a way through it for 1 year. And then at that time, I would allow myself to open up to the possibility and basically reevaluate to decide if I wanted to continue or not. And now we're in the second half of year 2. So yay. And honestly, had I not made that commitment to myself and sharing it with my sister, I might have bailed sometime early in that first year. Now that I've been through it, I get why the vast majority of podcasts don't last that long. It takes commitment, it takes courage, it takes guts, it takes goals. And the exact same thing can be said about your side hustle dream. Fortunately, I love doing this and connecting with our side hustle heroes and connecting with you. So once you make a commitment to pursue your side hustle, ask yourself, what's the minimum amount of time you're going to give it? I would say that is one of the top 2 success tips most often shared by our Side Hustle Hero guests. And that is to give yourself enough time for success to happen. The other top tip I often hear is to just actually start. Enough of the research already. Start taking action, start executing on your idea. But now, because you'll have your accountability partner in tow, you have added incentive to follow through and achieve your side hustle goals for the year. Well, that's a wrap for today. You'll find a link to the full show notes at our website, sidehustlehero.com. There you'll also see a link to my flagship video course, How to Turn Your Thoughts into Wanted Things. Because results, things are constantly showing up in your life, but are they the things you really want? If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.